The following true ghostly incident took place at Radio City in Liverpool, Merseyside. Radio City first went to air on the 21st of October 1974, and the strange events happened in the 1980s. At the time of the first incident, Gary was a reporter at Radio City and had just come down from the newsroom and suddenly looked across at the heavy soundproof door and saw the leg of a woman disappear behind the heavy door. He then heard footsteps running along the corridor heading in the direction of Studio 3. Gary thought this was very strange because at the radio station, in order to block out any sound, the floors were all carpeted so as to absorb all noises. So how was it that he could hear footsteps? It was 1:40 a.m. on a Saturday morning, so the whole area should have been deserted. So Gary decided to check with the security guard to find out who had been wandering around in the reception area that early in the morning. The guard advised Gary that other than the two of them, the only other people at the station were John Jessup and John Story, who at that moment were on air broadcasting their downtown program. Still adamant that someone was walking around the station, Gary and the security guard started a thorough search of the whole building, but could not locate any intruder. They even checked with both DJs to see if any of them had stepped out of the studio at all. They had not, nor had they seen anyone else. Things got even stranger when Gary and the guard headed back to the reception area, only to see a taxi driver tapping on the glass door to the entrance. Thinking, what would a taxi driver want this time of the morning? The guard then opened the security door, whereupon the driver told them he had a taxi waiting for Irene. Both Gary and the guard looked at each other in a confused state, stating, "Who the hell is Irene?" None of them knew anyone by the name of Irene. The driver said that his company had received a phone call from a woman called Irene who wanted to be picked up outside Radio City's entrance. The driver was informed that nobody by that name worked at the station, and as a matter of fact, no woman at all worked at the station. The driver then insisted that he'd just seen a blonde woman walk into the building just as he was pulling up, where she then waved to the driver as if to say, "I'll be out in a second." The security guard told the driver that no person could have walked into the building, as the security door could only have been unlocked by himself, and as the driver could see, they had just arrived at the front entrance and would have seen the woman coming through the door. But the driver still insisted that he saw the woman walk up to the door and go inside. The security guard again had to emphasise that the door is electronically controlled and only he could have opened it, so nobody could have just walked off the street and into the building. The taxi driver begrudgingly accepted their explanation and stormed away, unaware that up to the moment he had been the second person that had been a witness to a ghostly sighting at Radio City. Unbeknown to the men, that would not be the last strange phenomena that would occur at the studio. The strange woman that nobody could identify was given the name Irene, the name which the taxi company had received the booking from. Because of the unusual phenomena that the station had just experienced, Radio City believed they had a great story for the next news bulletin the following day, and recorded on tape the early morning spooky incident with Irene. The following day, they attempted to play back the recording, which was to go to air, and found that the tape had been completely wiped and was totally blank. There should have been no way that this could have happened, as it was carefully labelled and was the correct tape. For a time, they believed that someone had accidentally erased the bulletin, but discounted the idea as there was no trace of background noise associated with the tape having been erased. The tape was totally blank, and it was as if the story had never been recorded. Yet all the other tapes had recorded the previous day were fine, and it was only the tape about the mysterious Irene that had been erased. They then quickly recorded a news story about the woman for the next broadcast. However, it appears that Irene was not finished playing games when 2 weeks later, newscaster Tony Kerner had just finished reading the 4 a.m. news bulletin on Friday morning and headed upstairs, only to find that his cigarettes had been scattered all over the desk, and to make matters even stranger, one of them had been lit and was smouldering in the ashtray. Believing that someone had played a prank on him, he headed back downstairs to abuse whoever had played a practical joke on him. However, other than himself, there had only been 2 other people in the building, where John Story had been in the studio and Stephen, the security guard, had not left his post at the front entrance. They swore they had not been in the newsroom and could offer no explanation as to how his cigarettes had been scattered on the desk and even one being lit. But Irene was not finished with her shenanigans, because as the three men were together discussing the bizarre events, the telephone started to ring. The men were surprised, and not because someone was ringing so early in the morning, but because the phone in reception cannot ring at that time of the morning unless someone dials from within the building. But the three men were all together staring at the phone ringing. So who other than the men was in the building ringing the phone? None of the men were brave enough to pick up the phone and answer it. Maybe Irene wanted to finally introduce herself.